Oh yes, everyone, we've all been waiting for this moment. A nice facelift for the legendary Ford Puma. I say legendary because it was arguably one of the best Fords available, because it was great value for money and that you get a nice crossover SUV that looks stylish. Is this another case of Germany versus the USA? Because when I looked at the interior, it looks very Germanic. It looks like something the Volkswagen Group would come up with, or a BMW. For that reason. Whereas when you look at the exterior, it has this very strong Ford identity. This Ford Puma costs 36,000 euros, and I can already tell you it has a 360-degree parking camera with parking sensors at the front and at the rear, and with adaptive headlights. Now these kind of headlights are part of the facelift. From a distance, they look quite aggressive and they look really close to an actual Puma. And you get actual air vents here. And because it has the ST line, this particular Puma has a more sporty look to it. For the rest of the exterior design, there's been no drastic change or anything. Now, both front doors get keyless entry, but listen to the door sounds. The front doors, they sound amazing, but there's something about the rear door that sounds abnormally loud. I mean, no matter how gentle I am, it makes this loud noise. Check this out. And then I noticed another problem. The front indicator lights are amazing. They're very premium and they live in the 2020s. But when you look at the side indicator, it seems to be stuck in the 2010s or even in the 2000s. I mean, look at this. And then as we approach the rear, look at this. Come on, Ford. Now, for the longest time I've known the Ford brand, there was a big rift between Ford Europe and Ford North America. Ford North America had all the big guns like the Ford Mustang, the Ford F-150, the Ford everyone dreams of, whereas Ford Europe had the generic A to B machines. As of lately, in the 2010s, this was beginning to change. We were beginning to see American models being introduced in the EU market. This was a fabulous moment. And that too, Ford Europe models were beginning to look more American than ever by putting the Ford badge at the center of the grille. All right, now the interior of the Ford Kuga. My first impression, definitely Germanic. I mean, look at this. To be honest, I'm just gonna say it right away, it doesn't remind me of any Ford I've seen so far. I mean, just the fact that I'm seeing this whole thing right here, it kind of reminds me of the Ford Galaxy of the 2000s, the very late 90s and 2000s, because it's like how everything was together in one place, more driver-centric. But that was when they had a collaboration with Volkswagen, and that collaboration was not really something to be proud of, because their cars were just HB machines that were not very durable. That was the time at that time. But today, who knows? Things have changed. But there's something interesting I've also seen. This continuous trim right here, again, is another Volkswagen Group detail. I've never seen this with Ford before. But then things get interesting as we look at the steering wheel. The steering wheel is squidgy, very pleasant to hold on to. It's exactly like what I've seen in the Ford Transit Custom. Am I a fan of the steering wheel? I think it's nice, but it's just a concept I have to get used to because it looks like a square. And the feel of it is really good. And because this is the ST line, you get red stitching on it with the black leather. And the seats also have this black leather with the red stitching and the Alcantara in the middle. Wonderful is that. And the gear stick has remained classic. It's the exact same gear stick they've been using for already more than 10 years. Cool. It's quite nice. And then this is where things get even more interesting. I'm not sure if this is something to be proud of. You get a wireless telephone recharge that's sitting right there diagonally as if it were an afterthought. What? It's as if something was meant to be underneath this, but I don't know what it is. And then there's a storage space that's rather shallow with a USB point and a charging port. Okay, what's going on over here? Otherwise, you get two cup holders of fixed sizes. They're good. To put the cup holders down there is practical because that way the bottles don't get in the way for me when I'm using the gear stick or when I'm using the infotainment system. And then you get a nice central console storage. That's wonderful. It's adjustable even. Look, you get this little storage space. That's very, very nice. Then let's check out the door bin. The door bin is rather long. Ooh, that's practical. Although about fitting a big bottle, I mean, that can depend. Now you do get manual seating adjustments, and to move it front and back, you have to pull from here underneath. But this is the part which gets annoying because my wrist has to always compress onto the seat. So it's really, yeah, just something I have to get used to. And when it comes to window buttons and mirror controls, Ford has arguably one of the best details. Like, I really like the details they invest in it. Now, surprisingly, compared to most cars, you get only one stroke, and it's right here for your wipers and your indicator. Whereas the lighting controls are right here. This is, yeah, something I have to get used to, right? Because most car manufacturers have 2 strokes or even 3 strokes to some extreme extent. And when it comes to the mapping detail, I think the mapping is not really on par with the Volkswagen Group or Stellantis. There's something about the map that feels a bit, yeah, there's just not much detail. You get the greenery, you get the built-up areas, but it doesn't seem on par with Stellantis in the sense there's no 3D diagram or anything. It's and it looks as if everything is in night mode. The driving modes, you can choose normal, eco, sport, or slippery, which I'm assuming would have been off-road, but thank goodness they don't sugarcoat things. They stick to the reality that you're not going to use this for off-roading, so they say slippery. And like most Ford models, you get the defrosters onto the windows, so you won't be wasting your time scraping the ice off the window. Now it's time to check out the back seats of the Ford Puma. This is where things get a bit interesting because the entire door screams budget. Ford has made no attempt to making it look more interesting or brightening things up, which is ironic because this has the ST line. You see the front, there's proud references to the ST. But then you look at the rear, well, the seat has this ST stitching and ST fabric to it, and it's really squidgy. Look, the back seat is really, it's like a sofa, it's like a couch. But then if you look elsewhere, it's just very dark. That's all I can say. You get a 12-volt socket and charging port down there. No air vents at all, so I have to pray that the front seat passenger and the driver understand my climate demands, because if they don't, that's where I have to compromise, unfortunately. No handle right here, but I get a coat hook. What? And that's it. And backseat pockets, which are leather, and no armrest. Now it's time to check out the boot space of the Ford Puma. This is where things get interesting, and every time you open the door, there's this huge clunk from the door. And a rather interesting boot space, so let's talk about it in detail. I already get a 12-volt socket and a little hook right there, but to fold down the rear seats, I have to do it by myself through the side. Now the boot floor is adjustable. Well, at least I thought it was adjustable. Oh, or it is actually adjustable. Okay, I spoke too soon. The boot floor is adjustable, and when you put it down, you get more space. And if you want, you can always leave it upwards so that you get a flat floor, which is easy to load luggages in and out. You get this lip over here, which is plastic, so therefore it's durable. And the body paint is not very much exposed. So in long terms, this is going to be durable. This is exactly what I need. So here's my conclusion of the Ford Puma 2024 facelift. For a price of 36,000 euros, if you wanted something driver-centric and also well-equipped, this Ford Puma is for you. But if you were expecting practicality or family friendliness, this Ford Puma raises a lot of questions. And that too, if you're looking at style and design, that's where there's another set of questions, because the pre-facelift version was still Fordish. It ticked almost all the boxes. It was actually my favorite Ford at that moment. But this facelift has raised a bit of a question, because you see a conflict between Ford Europe and Ford North America. The exterior looks American. The interior looks like an imitation of something German. So is it American? Is it German? That's where I feel like Ford has taken a step back in that regard. But that's not with all Ford models. Like, for instance, what they did with the new Ranger is beautiful. So it's a bit mysterious what happened with this Puma. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos that are on the run. I will see you all next time.